I'm Dante St. James, and today we're looking at Google's Nano Banana. It's all part of the Google Gemini suite of AI tools, and it is pretty useful when it comes to creating images, graphics, or anything like that, and even more useful when you use it in alignment with all the other Google tools as well. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get underway. I think you're going to enjoy this. It's going to be one of those things where you'll find uses every day for this you probably didn't imagine you would. So share the screen and get it underway. So this is basically what the Google Gemini screen looks like. I've got the Pro version here, but you can go between versions. Say, for instance, over here, the Fast Answers Quickly model is the model you'll get as a free user. You can use a little bit of Pro, but you do run out of allowance fairly quickly, not as quickly as ChatGPT, which is very non-generous with what it gives you. Google's a little bit more generous, but with the thinking with Pro, this is where you get really the best version of all this. Now, the easiest way to show you how to create an image is like you would in ChatGPT or any other AI image generator. You go create image. It's got a few different options it'll come up with. I'm going to skip those and just go create an image of a woman standing on the edge of a foreshore looking out to a sunset in Darwin around the Nightcliff jetty. So it's putting a bit of context in there. One thing I'm going to add in here, which you couldn't do with the free version, you can do with the pro version, is start adding things like the ratio of the image. So the ratio I'm going to use is 4:5. Why would I use 4:5? Because that is the ratio of Instagram posts. So that's what I'm doing, 4:5. Let's see what it does. Submit. Now, that's a pretty generalized set of instructions, just creating an image of a woman. I could have gone into more detail about perhaps racial backgrounds, appearance, hair color, the kind of clothing being worn, the atmosphere around there, whether it's windy, whether it's quiet and calm, whether there's clouds in the sky. You can add a lot of different detail to it without having to get, something which is terrible. But that is pretty freaking good. The positioning is actually probably more Fanny Bay than what it is in Nightcliff, but this makes sense. It looks like an influencer shot. If I go in nice and close there, you'll see that's pretty accurate to a skyline that you might see in Darwin, a little bit different. Maybe that's Larrakia, the Cox Peninsula in the background, and we're down by the mangroves around East Point Reserve, perhaps, or Fanny Bay. So that's an example of that basic thing. But what I now want to do is reduce the clouds. This is where you can actually then start playing with the image. In the free version, what it does tend to do is lose some of the quality of the original image, but you do get a few goes at this where you're playing with the original image and editing it. So reduce the clouds by 50% and change the dress to a floral dress in mostly reds and yellows. And I'm going to put here too, the model's arms should be in the air. So I'm now starting to manipulate the model that I'm working with here. And it could be anything, it could be a guy, it could be a dog. It's particularly good at doing animals and dogs and cats and guinea pigs and capybaras and all that sort of thing. So if we go back, you'll see there's a lot of detail in there. It picked up Darwin, you've got pandanus, you've got mangroves, it's really nailed the look of what you would see in Darwin, the flat ocean, not a wild ocean. So it's really nailed a lot of that. Now what I'm doing is editing the original image. Let's see what it does there. Now, what you'll probably notice is that gave me the 4:5. I didn't specify the ratio, but it still picked it up. The floral dress in the breeze, reds and yellows, arms in the air. It's pretty much nailed that. So it's done a really good job and it's preserved the background, the pandanus, the mangroves, the rock pools. It's preserved all of that detail. Now, I could actually add in a little bit more, and I'm going to put some words. Add the words, wish you were here, in script font, and below it, add in small serif font. Serif is not spelled that way. Darwin, Australia. And now we're going to add in some text overlay to it. So we're taking that photo and adding the words to it. What you'll notice here is that the down the bottom here, it's creating a watermark. That's part of Google's way of saying, look, we know that there's going to be a lot of people who use this to create things that aren't good, and they're going to try and pretend it's real and all that. So this is our way of making sure there's a watermark on there that says that this was created in Google Gemini, or Nano Banana, as the particular model is called that's creating the images. So let's see our postcard. There you go. So it's created that, no weird text, exactly what I asked for, a script font with, that gave me a that's gave me a serif font, rather sans serif, so I've got that correct as well. So I can play with that and change that text to a different color if I wish, and then start adding a bit more detail in there. Then that's the basics of working with an image and doing pretty well at it. Now, what I'm going to show you is something a little bit more complicated. We're going to go and do a little bit of research. So give me some research into the occurrence of, here we go, of Irukanji. Could have spelled something, found something a bit easier to spell. Jellyfish in Northern Territory waters. And format this into a number of facts that could be used for a school project presentation. So we're going to get some research now. I'm not doing any images. What I'm doing is getting research. So I can then take this research and what it's going to pump out and turn it into some kind of useful graphic. So for instance, if you were in an industry such as hospitality and you wanted to do something with some facts about hospitality, you can turn it into an infographic. And this is where we go well beyond creating pretty pictures, and we're going to create actual infographics. And just sort of did this last week for the very first time with a client who was wanting to see if we could. They saw an example, we gave it a go, and it worked. This is a very big jump over what you could do with it before. So what I'm going to do now with that information is go create images and say, turn this into a highly detailed infographic that contains imagery typical of Northern Territory coastal areas near Darwin. So I want some imagery that sort of fits in with that. Include a NT flag and lots of graphical representations. And now I'm going to do a ratio of 16:9. So we want this to be wide because we're going to present it on a screen. So I've done all that. Let's see what it does with that. So it's taking that information, bits and pieces of it, and it's going to then synthesize that into this infographic using those informations that I added. Now, one thing you need to know about when you're doing infographics, you kind of get a one shot at getting it right. Otherwise, you have to then redo the whole thing from scratch, because what it doesn't do with things that have lots and lots of text on is transfer lots and lots of text very well between one version and the next. Whereas getting a dress right, getting a position of hands right, the sky, the clouds, the skyline is all very easy for it to do. But when it comes to working with text, it's going to have a few problems with trying to get that text in a position where it's going to be very much the same from edit to edit to edit. So here we go. That's pretty awesome. So that's given us, a bit of a Northern Australia coastline, a few more cliffs than we probably have. The territory flag is not quite right. In fact, it's very wrong. But the text is what I'm really looking for here. So a flag, I can put that in Canva and put a real flag over the top of that. But all this great, amazing, all the stuff that's very much text wise is looking great. Now, what the problem is, if I was to go and start doing that and going, okay, let's edit this and add this and add this, it does tend to not pick up all the text that well. It will be great things with the editing of what's in the background, but in the text, it's probably going to mess that up. So this gives you an idea of the complexity of the different images you can produce. The same thing goes in when you're starting to produce charts. So let's start a new one. What is the population breakdown in the Northern Territories? Just doing the territory because that makes sense for me. Northern Territory's main urban centers, in both numbers and percentages, include all the top, let's just say 6 urban areas. So I'm going to do that little bit of research, not deep research, just the basic research. If I really wanted to get super accurate, real breakdowns and comparing on lots of different sources, then I might go and do deep research of this. But in this case, I'm just doing just a very small search, very, very basic information I'm getting. So it's going to give me that information. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn this into a chart, not an infographic, but just charts. So normally you take all this information, maybe enter it into Canva, create charts through there with their preset charts. But what I'm going to do is rather turn this into a chart internally from here. So we'll see how that turns out. So as it's coming up, it's taking a little bit longer to do this research because I've been kind of hammering Google Gemini this morning with a lot of information for stuff I've been building, including images of myself, which I'm going to show you something very interesting you can do later. So the population of the territory is approximately 260,800. You got Darwin, Palmerston, Alice Springs. This is pretty much what we're looking at, the top 6 urban areas. Fantastic. So what we want to do is now I'm going to take this information, do that whole create images thing again, and turn this into a set of charts, or into a chart that outlines the population centers graphically and clearly for presentation in a slide deck. And I might just go also for that one. Let's do it in a ratio 16 to 9 because I want it to be nice and wide. Other areas might be 5 to 4, which is sort of the reverse of a Instagram post, which is usually 4 to 5. You can do 2 to 3, which is also very good for sort of Instagram-ish kind of shapes that might show up really well. Say, for instance, for a slide deck, a carousel on LinkedIn, it would be good 2 to 3. 2 to 1 is if it's really wide and very short. And then you might do another very common one, which is 16 to 9, which we're just doing here. Now, other than that, you also have 9 to 16, which is like the dimensions of a mobile phone, basically, a 9 to 16 ratio, which will display best. For instance, if you're going, I want to display this on just for something to read and view on a mobile phone. So let's get that one going as well. So we're taking all that information, which is giving us some pretty good stuff. And it's going to let us go then, for instance, into what we've done from that information. So I've specifically asked for the top 6. It'll be interesting to see whether it will choose the top 6 or all that information, including the additional places like Maningrida, Wadeye, and Gallawinku, or the rural Brox and pastoral stations as well, or whether it's just going to concentrate on the top 6 that I originally asked for. So what I probably needed to do is get really specific in there, turning the chart just based on the top 6, which it has done. So let's have a look at that. That's looking pretty good. It's also got the positions of the towns pretty much right, although it's not pointing to the right places. It's Darwin and suburbs and Palmerston should be pointing here. Instead, we've got Nhulunbuy pointing there and at Catherine. Catherine's currently pointing at Nhulunbuy. Tennant Creek is pointing at both Alice Springs and Tennant Creek. And yeah, it hasn't really quite got that right. That's there, but that's okay. For me, I wouldn't need that representation there. Really, what I'm looking for is this chart. Interesting though, it has actually bunched together Darwin and Palmerston like the research said, that it's generally that is one urban area. So it's done pretty good at that. So I'm pretty happy with the way that's turned out. Now, what I could do, because there's not too much writing on that, I could then say edit this to have no map, no lines to the map, and a color palette that matches Matches the sorry, I'm just much easier at talking to these tools than I am right and typing at them. That matches the ochre, black, and white of the NT flag. So let's see. I said glad. I'm sure it knows that I mean flag there. So what it'll do is take that, and what we're trying to see is the accuracy of taking all those bits of writing and transferring those into the edited version. Because generally, what happens is the next version is going to get some of that text wrong. So, and one of the things we can do to get around that is you can download the original of this one. You download it, then you re-upload it into a new chat, and then you do the change. That's a little hot tip for you that might actually make it better. But let's see what it's done. This model is being updated pretty much on the daily. So there's some things which it did badly last week, which is doing pretty well this week. And it is great. It did really well. It maintained all, it took all the lines, took that out and got the ochre, the black, the whitish background. It did exactly what I asked for and maintained all of that. Primarily, I think because it didn't have lots of tiny little writing. It just had some. So it's done really well. So that's the kind of stuff you can now start to do. You can start to build in your own brand guidelines there. You can insert a logo in there. So I'm going to grab a logo from somewhere on my here. Let's see which ones I've got that are nice and easy to get hold of. I'm going to go CS logo and find one that's in here somewhere. I've got lots and lots of them under a PNG file, PHP PNG. Here we go. So I'm going to put this logo, place this logo in the bottom right corner of the image, making it no more than 10% of the height of the main image. Now, you might be looking at some of these things and going, well, wouldn't you just be faster off if you did this within Canva or something like that? Yeah, it could be faster. But for those who don't have Canva or don't have Photoshop or any of those, and they want to just use these kind of things, that could be, this is an alternative for you. And what will happen over time is that this will become much more of an image editor rather than just an image generator. It can also do things like you can do in Canva. So for instance, if you want to fill in the sides of things, so there you go, it's actually returned, it gave me back a map that I didn't ask for. Everything else seems okay, 48% of the total. Yeah, it seems to maintain the numbers, 1.3, 1.2, and then added in my little thing there. Now, you can't see it, but there is the watermark in there. You can't quite view it over that darkness because I've got a light background. So the key to, making that watermark not look so obvious is to probably just use lighter backgrounds, and it will tend to fade into that lighter background rather than having a dark version of that diamond on there. That's done a pretty good job. And I could really, if I wanted to, go in and sort of get into Canva, set myself up a 16:9 presentation in there, and then download or even just copy this. Oops, I opened too many canvas. Come on, back we get. Too many there, buddy. And then go copy this. So copy the image, go into my presentation, paste it, make it fill in that area. And then I can start doing some kind of editing in there where I want to remove some of the stuff. So for example, if I wanted to get rid of that map, get myself a shape of the same with the background color, and then just go here. It'll generally give me the photo colors there. That's now matching the background color. I've now got rid of my map. So then I've edited that out. So if you want to do something quickly to edit, you can copy and paste it or download it to put it into somewhere that makes sense for you. Now, the final little bit I'm going to show you, which is working with your own photos or the photos of others. So I can do something as crazy as click create image, upload my favorite headshot of myself, which if you were following me on LinkedIn this morning, you would have seen that I did one of these. So I go to my desktop where I save my headshot. Everyone has that one photo of themselves they don't hate. This is the one of me. And I use this one because it's very clear and it's very easy to use for things. So I'm going to go use this character as a person working in a fish and chip shop. talking with a regular customer. I got to like stop typing and just talking to these things, talking with a customer. He is wearing an apron to protect his black t-shirt. And what I want to do is now put this in a ratio of 4:5, so it fits on Instagram. Then add text at the top saying customer service matters. And then we're creating a graphic of this guy as a guy working in a sing and chip shop. Oh my God, that fish and chip shop. This is why I should talk to these tools, not type them in. Wearing an apron to protect his black t-shirt, ratio to 4:5. Then add text at the top saying customer service matters. I am hoping that it knows that I'm talking about fish and not Sai and chip shop. Otherwise, a Sai and chip shop could be a very, very interesting scenario. So let's see what it comes up with. Hopefully it's an efficient chip shop. So it actually picked it up. So that's pretty good. It's captured me very well. It understands who I am. I'm talking to the customer. Mushy peas, haddock, cotton chips. It's actually put me in a very, very British fish and chip shop wearing a butcher's apron. So it's done a really good job maintaining my tattoos to mostly a degree. It's missed the tattoo on my hand, but it's got the beard, it's got the facial features, and it's put me in that and put the customer service matters at the top. So you can use that to create images in combination with text. I could then take that, for instance, and make this an Australian fish and chip shop. Fish and chip shop. So it doesn't have, all those haddock and all that sort of stuff, which is stuff you'd buy in Britain, not in Australia. And mushy peas, you could pick up in Australia. Probably more common with a fish and chip shop in Britain. So let's see what it comes up with. So again, you can add the best photos you have of you. One of the best things you can do in this is have a collection of 4 to 5 different angles of your face and head in order to get that and mix it up with full body shots. So it gets a real idea of what your shape is rather than you always getting it. So snapper, there you go, barramundi, potato cakes, chico rolls, and dim sims. So it's really picked that up, and it's got Bundaberg ginger beer in the background too. So it's really done a good job of the Australianizing of that. Also, a little bit of a difference. No, the customer is about the same, but yeah, it's changed flake and chips, snapper, barramundi, potato. It's done a really good job of mixing that up. So that's an idea of what you can do. If I was to go, say, for instance, into my LinkedIn, you'll see that I quite frequently use these to do things. So if I go into here, into, say, a post, you'll see this morning's post right here. That's another example of one I've done. What I do quite often, I'll add filters over the top of them so they don't look quite so obviously AI generated with me. And I prefer to use photos of myself, not because I'm narcissistic and love seeing photos of myself. What it is, it stays it out of that whole thing of using stock photography. I really hate stock photography. It really is terrible. And I've done some others where they've not necessarily, like for instance, this cartoon isn't something I designed within this same tool. So I've got, for instance, got a gem over here. So gems are like ChatGPT custom GPTs. I've designed one specifically to do my cartoons. So a set of instructions. I won't go into too much in the cartoon things. We're running out of time, but this is a way that you can, design cartoon characters and have persistent characters that can carry across different things. So if I go here, for instance, start, it's got all my instructions in the background. It's got examples of the first ones I created to say, these are the style I want and the style of characters. Here is the title I want on top with the linked-ish thing on the top. And we're going to have a couple of characters here. So the first one is going to be Trish, the boss. And they're going to have another person that's going to ask me for a second person. I'm going to say Gary, the employee. There we go. And now it's going to ask me, okay, what is the first panel going to have? Sometimes it gets it wrong and it jumps from the first panel straight to the end and makes the rest up. So hopefully it won't do that to me today. So I can go in that first panel, you go, Trish, and then I do the dialogue. So Trish, hey, Gary, did you get that report done? Um, let it go. Then I'll go to the second panel, which I'm going to go Trish. So Gary. So panel 2, it's going to behave itself. So Gary's saying, not yet, but give me 5 minutes. And it will be on your desk. And we can go Trish in panel 3. Great, let's go. And then go to Gary in panel 4. What I'm going to do with Gary is watching YouTube instead of doing his work. Trish in next panel comes to Gary's desk angry. It's been 2 hours. Where's the report? And then panel 6, we'll go to Gary again. Might actually be able to use this one. It's not my fault. I fell into a conspiracy rabbit hole. YouTube. And that's the final one. Now what it's going to do, it's going to draw up the whole comic in those styles of Gert. And I'll give you a bit of a peek on some of the instructions I've used to create these. So validating the scenario, it's reading all those things I've asked. So step 5, step 6, step 7. And now it's going to draw out my comic, see what it comes out with. Because well, probably one I'll use next week. Already done all this week's ones. So you get an idea of just how clever these little tools can be and how far you can go with them. So it's giving me all the instructions it's going to do. So now generate a linked dish cartoon. There it all is. So I'm going to change that to create image and say create, so generate the comic. And now I've generated. So it's got all the instructions. Now it's got to draw it. So let's see what it comes up with. Coffee. All right, so loading in Nano Banana Pro, it's thinking, it's starting to bring all that together, synthesize all the information that's in there. So this is a set of what's called Markdown. So that's Markdown code. So it takes that Markdown code and then bases it on all the stuff that it came from. So it's going to have a signature in the bottom right-hand corner of the final panel with my name, Dante St. James. Got speech bubbles. It's got the it's got the top linked in bold capital letters, followed by ish written in white, playful lowercase characters inside a black rectangular box. Let's see if it nailed it. It did. It used exactly the format I like in there. Hey, Gary, did you get that report done? Not yet, but give me 5 minutes to be on your desk. Great, let's go. It's playing on YouTube. It's been 2 hours. Where's the report? It's not my fault. I fell into a conspiracy rabbit hole on YouTube. So I can then use that and I'm going to download it to my computer and that becomes my thing. Now I've got a set of instructions in there, obviously, that makes this happen. So I can go to Link Dish Cartoons, go to edit, and I'll show you my instruction set. So I've loaded up with a photo of me. So if I ever say it's going to be me, that's my photo. That's the logo I want at the top. And then I've got 3 examples of the style of cartoon that I want in there, which is the 3 first ones I created. And then this is the sequence I go through. So when the user says start, follow the sequence step by step. Don't skip steps. There you go. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now the rules in here, you must follow each step in the sequence. I'm going to add in order and only generate the result when you reach step 8. This is critically important. Sometimes it doesn't get it right. Spelling must be Australian. Acknowledge the user knowledge file logo as the title of every comic. The signature Dante St. James included in the final panel in handwriting. And whenever a character is called Dante, refer to the attached headshot as an inspiration for that character. So I want to do a cartoon myself. That's where it does it. And I can update that. Now, as a free user on Gemini, you can create your own gems. That's not what this one's about. I'll do another one of these later in the week when I've got another webinar, but that'll get you started. So that is using your Nano Banana within Google Gemini to create really useful stuff. So you can create characters. I can create a character myself, carry it across into other images and other places. The key is to have a really good, well-lit headshot of yourself and some great photos of yourself. So even if you have to go into a studio to take 10 photos of very different parts of you, it will do very well. Being bald, it's done very well with me being bald. I can have the views from the back and it seems to work out what I would look like from the back. But where it gets really, really cool is when you start working with these kind of infographic kind of presentations where you can do a little bit more than just simply have another boring PowerPoint slide. You can actually add some real good graphical representations in there that go a lot further than just simply writing down things. You can, there you go. You have these amazing, graphical representations and stuff that just looks so much more engaging for people. So that, my friends, is it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll have another of these, I think, later in the week. I've got one on Google Gemini itself, using it to create gems and written stuff. And I've got a whole bunch of this stuff happening over the Christmas New Year break. I'm not taking a break at all. I'm using this as a chance to do something of a little summer school. So please do keep an eye out for those, either through my LinkedIn profile or through the Darwin Innovation website at darwininnovationhub.com.au. Thank you and have a great week.